Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Now in this one, I'm going to show you exactly how I aim and sight snooker shots. Now on the internet you'll see loads of videos all about aiming at the point on the back of the ball, trying to keep that in your mind, doing the centre to the edge, so you aim the centre of the cue ball to the edge of the object ball. There's all these tips and tricks on the internet helping you to aim and pot snooker balls. I don't use any of them. And I'm going to show you in detail exactly how I aim and sight all of my snooker shots. Right, so let's start off by looking at a nice straight shot to the middle here. Now I always think when you're talking about sighting and aiming, it's just easy to start off with a nice straight shot. Now I'm also going to show you in this video exactly how I aim and sight angled shots and how I check that they're going in. So make sure that you keep watching this video. Now there's three things I'm interested in when I'm sighting. Number one is what the shot looks like to me when I'm standing up here. And I'm going to show you with in detail exactly what I'm looking for when I'm standing up. Number two is what the shot looks like when I get down to it. So when my head is over the cue, what the shot looks like. And again, I'm going to show you in detail what I'm looking for there. And number three, part of my aiming is micro adjusting and just checking that everything feels absolutely perfectly and adjusting if I need to. Now that's a very, very big one, and it's a big misconception when you're looking on the internet and talking about aiming. I've always said in all of my previous videos, 95% of your aiming is done standing up, which means what I've been saying to players is that 5% is done when you're actually down on the shot, and in reality it's probably a little bit less than that. It's only very, very fine adjusting. But I think we're all led to believe that you do your aiming here, and then you get down, and you're not allowed to adjust it or do any aiming at all when you're down, and of course, if you do that, you'll just miss shots all the time because you've got to make sure that the shot looks perfect to you when you're down. So let's look in detail at the three things step by step that I'm doing when I check that I'm going to pot this ball. Right, so part one of the aiming, I'm going to show you from my perspective as the player. So I'm walking around to pot this blue, and this is what I'm interested in as a player. So I'm mostly in the standing position looking at the blue. And if I look at the blue and I stand here, it obviously looks like, no, I'm not behind the correct line. If I stand too far over this way, no, it looks like I'm not behind the shot. And there's a point where I can focus on the blue. I can obviously tell the pocket is there and I can tell the white is there, but I'm looking mainly at the blue. And there's a point, obviously, isn't there, in the middle where the shot looks good to me. So I don't need to worry about which is my dominant eye, any of that stuff that I've talked about in previous videos. I think it just overcomplicates it, really. You just want to get where you think is behind the line of the shot. And to me, if I stand about there like that, you know, I'm pretty happy that for my sighting, that looks good. So you've just seen what my eyes are doing there. So that's what I'm looking for, the feedback I'm getting as a player as I stand behind the shot. And what I was doing was obviously I was too far to the side, too far this way. And there's a point where my brain, if I generally look at the blue, and this is the big thing as well, I'm not looking precisely at the blue there, I'm trying to look at a perfect contact point. I'm just looking at the blue, and I can tell by looking at that, the pocket is in the background, the white ball is, you know, in the foreground here, and I can see those things in my peripheral vision. And as I look at the blue, I can feel that I've pivoted one way too far or the other, and then there's a point somewhere where my brain settles and this shot looks correct to me. Right, so I'm now going to show you what I'm looking at when I actually walk in and get down to the shot. I'm not going to do this using a cue because it's just easier to get the perfect camera views for you. So when you go down into the shot, you're then getting this effect. So you wouldn't quite be that close. And this is what I do. My eyes would be looking at the blue to check that the blue is going to pot into the pocket. Obviously, you've got to do a check on the cue ball as well to make sure that your tip is hitting the cue ball correctly. But this is what I'm looking for. As I look at the blue, and I'm not looking for any precise points on the blue here, but as I look at the blue, I can tell that if I do that, well, I'm straight behind the white, but it looks as though when I look up at the blue is going to pop to the right of the pocket. As I move round, it looks like, well, I'm still behind the white, but it looks as though to me the blue is now going to pop to the left of the pocket. And then if I move round here, yep, I can get the confirmation that that looks better. It looks like now that will pot into the pocket. So this is what I'm looking for when I'm aiming shots. That's too far to the right of the pocket. That's too far to the left. And then I'll get a point where I go, yes, that's the confirmation that that pot is going in. And again, I don't need to look at the, where is it, the pocket in the background. I can tell it's there in my peripheral vision, but I don't need to look at the pocket. So what I was looking for down on the shot, and what you just saw me doing there, was I would have been having my tip at the centre of the cue ball, and then if I keep my tip at the centre and move that way, it looks as though the ball is going to go over there to me as I look at the blue. As I go this way, my tip is still in the centre of the cue ball, but it looks as though the blue is going too far that way. And then somewhere in the middle of those, yeah, it looks as though as I look up at the blue, with the pocket in the background, I can feel that it's going in, and I'm checking my tip is right at the centre of the cue ball to make sure it all looks good. So that's what you saw me doing there. Now, what I'm not telling you to do is to move around on the shot like that to find the aiming. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just exaggerating and showing you the feedback that my eyes are getting. So what you've got to do is go from that standing position, and then, like I say, you're doing 95% of your aiming there. And then when you get down, you're almost there. You're pretty much going to be bang on. And the last little bit is just the tiny, tiny little 2% of fine tuning to make sure that image that I just showed you down on the shot looks as though that ball is going bang in the centre of the pocket. So if you're trying to pot it centre pocket, you've got to get the feedback that it looks absolutely smack on. Now, just to highlight the point for you about fine tuning a shot, I've got a long red here. So I want to pot this red, get onto the black. Now, this is a great example, and the one I always use when I'm teaching people on the table. I always say, can I really get from the standing position up here to absolutely within less than a millimetre down onto the table, so that there's no aiming left to be done when I'm down on the shot and making sure that I'm really zoned in on that pot and it looks good? And I always say, of course not. There's no way I can get down within the tiny, tiny fractions that matter here and make sure that this long pot is going to go in. So what I'll do is I'll stand behind the shot exactly as I'm doing before. On a longer shot here, I may have a glance at the white, the red, maybe look at the pocket. Predominantly, the biggest thing is you want to be looking at the red. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm getting all that feedback. 95% of my aiming is done. Then I'll walk into it, slide in. Now this is where I will feather at the white, look up at the red, and make sure everything looks absolutely perfect. And only then will I pull the cue back, play the shot, and hopefully, if I've done all those checks correctly, the pot should go in. Now, unfortunately, not all shots in snooker are going to be absolutely dead straight pots. And in actuality, we don't actually want those shots as snooker players. We want angles because it makes it much easier to manoeuvre the cue ball around and make bigger breaks. So that brings us on to then, well, how do you judge the potting angle? And for a snooker player, that is a guess. You are guessing at what you think the potting angle is. Obviously, Ronnie O'Sullivan's guess is a very, very good one. Now, there's loads of different aiming methods online for picking out angles. You'll see people talk about, a common one is picking a point on the back of the ball, and then you try and keep that point in your mind and aim for that point and try and pot the ball. Another one I see is the centre to edge, which is where you aim the centre of the cue ball to the edge of the ball you're potting, and that makes it go in. I've done ones on the ghost ball. And in actuality, I don't use any of those aiming methods. That is never the way I've aimed shots in snooker. So I've got to guess this potting angle from the same two positions that I talked about earlier. I've got to do it standing up, down on the shot, and then a little bit of fine tuning if it needs it. So only if it needs it, you don't want to just get into the habit of doing that all the time. So I'm going to show you on this angled shot what it's going to look like to me when I make my guess and judge this angle. Okay, so I'm going to show you from my perspective again how I go about picking out this angle on the black. So I've got to, as I say, it's my best guess, isn't it, of the potting angle. Now I'd say when I line these up, this is what I'm doing. I am basically here, I'm focused on the black. That is where all my attention goes. So my eyes are looking at the black ball here. Obviously I can tell the pocket's there and I can tell the cue ball is there. Now if I stand behind this line, I would say, no, that's no good. I'm just going to send the black right into this cushion here. If I move over here like this, so I'm standing behind the white still, you can see, but I would say the white is going to hit the black so thinly now that it's going to send it over to that cushion over there. And then I've got to say, make my best guess. And because I've done this a lot, this is the way I aim on every single shot. I just feel the angle. So I can tell with reference to the pocket, I'm going, okay, that feels like I've put about the right angle on it. So it feels like it's going to catch it about right and it's going to send it into that pocket. And of course, the more you do it like this, the more you just build up your angle recognition. And this guess is obviously a very, very accurate one based on lots of previous experience. So you just saw me there from a standing position. And what I'm doing, as I said before, is I'm looking at the black. And then as I move around here, I can feel when I think that I've got the correct angle to send the ball into that corner pocket there. So now I need to get from this standing position down into the shot. So obviously I'm not doing this with a cue again because it's easier to show you what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at the black here to pick the angle. Obviously, when you're actually aiming a shot, you would flick between the white and the black and the white and the black because you're checking that your tip is hitting on the cue ball where you want. But when I look up at the black, this is what I'm looking for. So I would say that if I look up there, the black is just going to go to here. If I move around to here, it looks as though I'm going to hit the black way too thin to me, but it's just done by feel. It just feels like I'm sending the black over here. And then as I move round, it feels like I can, get to a point where, so you'd be about this high on a shot, wouldn't you? So, yeah, that's too straight. And then it feels like that's, about the angle to send it into the pocket. Now, obviously, I'm not doing this when I'm down on the shot where I'm moving around all over the place. You go from the standing position pretty much down to where you need to be. And then, as I say, it's just that little tiny bit I would just be fine-tuning to make sure it feels like the black is going right into this pocket here. Now, I just want to add here almost a little bonus tip just about what my eyes are looking at and when as I walk into the shot. Now, I don't like the idea of analysing your eyes too much because I think if you focus on when you look at the white and the red and exactly what your eye patterns are doing, you'll completely mess your natural timing up. But there's one important thing I do, which is that when you walk into the shot, you'll be looking at the cue ball to make sure that you slide into the correct point on the cue ball for that given shot. Now, this is very, very common for almost all of the professional players, that they will be looking at the white as they do their walk in. So I'll be doing it here. So we already know now all about my aiming process. So I'm looking predominantly at the red here when I stand up. I'm obviously behind it. Feels like that's about the correct angle. I'm doing it all by feel. And then when I actually walk in, I'll now flick to the white. So the second I go to walk in, I look at the white, make sure that I go down. Then I'll look up at the red again. So as I'm going in, I'm sliding down to the centre of the white. That's what I'm looking at. And then I'll start my checks between the two. And then I'm not analysing exactly what my eyes are looking at. So I'm looking at the red here. Then I look at the white to slide down to the correct part of the white. White, red, white, red. Make sure it all feels absolutely locked on. And then when you're happy, you can play your shot, and hopefully, if I was playing something like that, nice shot to nothing. But yeah, I think the important thing there that I wanted to share was that when you go into the shot, the very common one amongst almost all of the pros is that they will be looking at the cue ball as they go in to make sure that you're going down to the perfect point of the cue ball before you start your aiming checks. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to give it a like. If you're new to the channel and you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing. That just really helps me to keep all these instructional videos coming regularly. For anyone that's interested in any personal one-to-one training sessions, I'm working on this very table, helping players to improve their game all the time. So if you look in the description box below, you'll see all my details there. Get in touch, and I'd love to help you personally with your game. And as always, I'll catch you all in the next video. Cheers.